The morning air on Nexus Station smelled like metal and engine oil. Taeho Kim walked through the busy corridors, his work boots making soft sounds on the steel floor. He had been saving credits for 2 years now. Today was the day he would finally buy his own spaceship. Other workers moved past him, heading to their jobs in the massive space station. Some were humans like him, but most were aliens from different worlds. Taeho had worked as a mechanic here for 8 years. He fixed broken ships and made old engines run again. Everyone knew he was good with his hands, but nobody thought much about the quiet human who worked in the shipyard. Taeho reached Vakul's salvage emporium at the edge of the station. The place was huge, filled with broken spaceships and old parts. Ships of all sizes sat in rows, most of them damaged or too old to fly. The smell of rust and burned metal filled the air. "Looking for something special today, human?" asked Grex, the alien who owned the salvage yard. Grex looked like a walking tree with too many arms. His voice sounded like wind through leaves. "I need a ship," Taeho said. "Something I can fix up and use for cargo runs." Grex laughed, a sound like branches breaking. "With your credits? You might find something in the back. The really cheap stuff is there." Taeho nodded and walked deeper into the salvage yard. He passed ships that cost more than he would make in 10 years. Big alien traders were looking at the expensive ones, talking in languages he did not understand. Near the back of the yard, Taeho found the section for the cheapest ships. Most of them were just piles of metal and broken parts. But one ship caught his eye. It sat alone, covered in rust and strange growths that looked like crystals. The ship was small, maybe big enough for 3 people. Its shape was odd, not like any design he had seen before. "That piece of junk," said a voice behind him. Taeho turned to see Rix, a large reptilian alien who traded ships for a living. Rix's scales were green and his eyes were yellow. "Human, you must be crazy to look at that thing. What's wrong with it?" Taeho asked. "Everything," Rix laughed, showing sharp teeth. "Nobody knows who made it or when. It has been here for 3 years. The engines don't work. The hull is full of holes. Even the scrap dealers don't want the metal." More aliens came over to see what they were talking about. Vel9, who looked like a giant insect with 4 arms, clicked his mouth parts. "Humans always pick the broken things," Vel9 said. "This is why your species will never be important in space." A tall, glowing alien named Corvin floated closer. Corvin's people, the Luminari, thought they were better than everyone else. "Young human," Corvin said in a voice like music, "why waste your money on trash? There are proper ships for sale here, small ones that even a human could fly." Taeho walked around the strange ship. The rust was thick, but underneath he could see metal that looked different from anything he knew. The crystal growths were not random. They seemed to follow patterns like they were part of the ship's design. "How much?" he asked Grex. The tree-like alien's branches shook with laughter. "You really want that thing? 500 credits and you take it away today." The other aliens laughed too. Rick slapped his tail on the ground. 500 credits for scrap metal. Grex, you are stealing from the poor human. Nobody else will buy it, Grex said. The human can have it cheap. Taeho thought about his savings. He had 800 credits total. 500 for the ship would leave him with 300 for parts and supplies. It was risky, but something about the ship felt right to him. "I'll take it," he said. The aliens stopped laughing. They stared at him like he had said something crazy. "Human," Corvin said slowly. "That ship will never fly. You are throwing away your money." "Maybe," Taeho said. "But it's my money to throw away." Rick shook his big head. "This is why humans will always be small. You make stupid choices and waste what little you have." Taeho ignored them and gave Grex his credit chip. The salvage dealer took the payment and handed him the ship's registration papers. "It's your problem now," Grex said. "Good luck getting it to move." As Taeho walked back to his workshop to get a tow cable, he heard the alien still talking and laughing behind him. Vel9's clicking voice was loudest. "Stupid human bought the worst ship in the yard. We should watch to see how long before he gives up." 3 days, Rick said. "I bet 3 days before he tries to sell it back." "He won't even get it started," Corvin added. "Humans think they understand technology, but they only know simple things." Taeho kept walking. He had heard this kind of talk his whole life. Aliens always said humans were too young, too simple, too weak to do important things in space. Most of the time he just ignored it and did his job. But today felt different. Back at his workshop, Taeho found his assistant Mi-young Park working on an engine. Mi-young was 25 and very smart with electronics. She had studied engineering before coming to work with Taeho. "Boss," she said, wiping grease from her hands, "I heard you went to buy a ship. Did you find anything good?" "Maybe," Taeho said. "Help me get the heavy tow cable. We need to bring something back from Grex's place." Mi-young followed him to get the equipment. "What kind of ship did you buy?" "The kind that everyone says will never work." Mi-young smiled. She had worked with Taeho long enough to know that he liked fixing impossible things. "Sounds interesting. What's so wrong with it?" "We'll find out," Taeho said. They took the tow cable and went back to the salvage yard. The aliens were gone now, but Grex was still there. He helped them connect the cable to the strange ship. "You know," Grex said as they worked, "I almost feel bad taking your money. This ship has been nothing but trouble since it got here." "What kind of trouble?" Mi-young asked. "Strange things," Grex said. "Sometimes the crystal parts glow at night. Sometimes the metal feels warm when it should be cold. My workers don't like to go near it." Taeho looked at the ship again. In the better light, he could see that the crystal growths were actually very beautiful. They caught the light and seemed to shine from inside. "Ready to go?" Mi-young asked. Taeho nodded. As they towed the ship back to their workshop, he felt excited for the first time in months. Maybe the aliens were right. Maybe the ship would never work. But maybe, just maybe, they were all wrong. Taeho's workshop was not big, but it had everything he needed to fix ships. The strange vessel barely fit inside, taking up most of the space. Under the bright work lights, the ship looked even more mysterious than it had in the salvage yard. Mi-young walked around it slowly, taking pictures with her scanner. "Boss, I've never seen anything like this. The metal doesn't match any known alloys in the database." Taeho ran his hand over the ship's surface. The rust flaked off under his touch, but underneath, the metal was smooth and dark. It felt warm even though the workshop was cool. "Let's start with the basics," he said. "We need to find a way inside first." They looked for doors or hatches but found nothing obvious. The crystal growth seemed to be part of the ship, not just stuck on the outside. They glowed softly, like they had their own light inside. "Maybe there's a hidden entrance," Mi-young suggested. She pressed different areas of the hull, looking for buttons or switches. Taeho tried a different approach. He put both hands on the largest crystal and closed his eyes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, very slowly, a section of the hull began to slide open. "How did you do that?" Mi-young asked, staring as a doorway appeared where there had been solid metal. "I'm not sure," Taeho said. "I just thought about wanting to get inside." The inside of the ship was even stranger than the outside. The walls curved in ways that hurt to look at. Everything was covered in the same crystal growths, but these ones pulsed with soft light. The air smelled clean like after a rainstorm. "This is incredible," Mi-young whispered. She took more pictures as they explored. "Look at this control panel. These aren't buttons or switches. They look almost organic." Taeho touched one of the control surfaces. It felt warm and slightly soft, like touching skin. Lights flickered across the panel, but nothing else happened. They spent the rest of the day exploring the ship. It had 3 small rooms connected by curved hallways. One room seemed to be for flying the ship. Another looked like a place to sleep. The third was filled with strange equipment they could not identify. "Boss," Mi-young said as they took a break, "people are starting to talk about your ship." "What kind of talk?" "Word got out that you bought something unusual from Grex. Some of the alien traders are asking questions. A few even came by earlier while you were getting supplies." Taeho frowned. "What did they want?" "They wanted to see the ship. I told them you weren't here, but they seemed very interested, more interested than they should be for a piece of junk." The next morning, Taeho arrived at the workshop to find someone waiting for him. Dr. Yana Solis was a human scientist who studied alien technology. She was older than Taeho, with gray hair and sharp eyes behind thick glasses. "Mr. Kim," she said, "I heard you found something interesting. May I take a look?" Taeho liked Dr. Solis. She had always been friendly to him and never talked down to mechanics like some scientists did. "Sure," he said, opening the workshop. "But I should warn you, it's pretty strange." When Dr. Solis saw the ship, she stopped walking and stared. Her face went pale. "My God," she whispered. "Where did you find this?" "Grex's salvage yard." "Why? Do you know what it is?" Dr. Solis walked around the ship, not touching it but looking at every detail. The crystal formations, the hull design, the way the metal seems to absorb light. "Mr. Kim, I think this might be a precursor ship." "A what?" Mi-young asked. "The precursors," Dr. Solis explained, were an ancient race that disappeared millions of years ago. They were far more advanced than any species we know today. We've found bits of their technology on dead worlds, but never a complete ship. Are you sure? Tejo asked. I need to run tests to be certain, but... Dr. Solis shook her head in amazement. If this is real, it's the most important discovery in galactic history. While Dr. Solis set up her equipment, Tejo continued working on the ship. He had found what looked like power cables hidden behind crystal panels. They were made of the same strange metal as the hull, but they felt alive under his hands. Tejo! Mi-young called from inside the ship. You need to see this. He found her in the control room, staring at a panel that was now glowing brighter than before. It started doing this when you touched those cables, she said. Look, there are symbols appearing. The control panel showed shapes that looked like writing, but not in any language either of them knew. The symbols moved and changed like they were trying to say something. Dr. Solis, Tejo called. Can you read these symbols? The scientist came running. When she saw the glowing panel, she gasped. This is definitely precursor writing, she said, but I can only read a few words. Most of their language is still a mystery to us. As they watched, the symbols changed again. This time they seemed simpler, more like pictures than words. It's trying to communicate, Mi-young realized. The ship is learning how to talk to us. Over the next few hours, more systems in the ship began to activate. Lights came on in the dark corners. The air began to circulate, bringing new smells like metal and ozone. The crystal growths pulsed faster like a heartbeat. The ship is repairing itself, Dr. Solis said in wonder. Look at this hull section. The rust is disappearing, it was true. Where the ship had been covered in rust and damage, new metal was growing to fill the gaps. The crystal formations were spreading too, creating new patterns across the surface. By evening, visitors started arriving at the workshop. First came Corvin, the glowing luminary who had mocked Tejo at the salvage yard. His attitude was very different now. Friend human, Corvin said in his musical voice, I have heard you have discovered something of value. Perhaps we could discuss a business arrangement. What kind of arrangement? Tejo asked. I could buy the ship from you for 10,000 credits, much more than you paid. Before Tejo could answer, Rix the reptilian trader arrived with 2 other aliens. Human, Rix said, his yellow eyes fixed on the ship. I will pay 15,000 credits, cash today. 20,000, said Vel 9, the insect-like alien who had clicked dismissively the day before. Tejo looked at Mi-young, who shrugged. Yesterday, these same aliens had laughed at him for buying junk. Now they were offering huge amounts of money for the same ship. It's not for sale, Tejo said. The aliens looked surprised. But human, Corvin said. 20,000 credits is more money than you will make in 5 years. Be reasonable. I said it's not for sale. After the aliens left, Dr. Solis pulled Tejo aside. They know what you have, she said quietly. Word is spreading fast. Soon more powerful groups will come asking. The Hegemony Council, maybe even military forces. What should I do? Be careful, Dr. Solis said. Precursor technology is beyond anything we understand. In the wrong hands, it could be very dangerous. That night, Tejo stayed late in the workshop. He sat in the ship's control room watching the symbols change on the glowing panels. The ship felt different now, more alive somehow. As he touched the control surface, new symbols appeared. These looked like star charts showing the galaxy with lines connecting different systems. What are you trying to show me? He asked out loud. The symbols changed again, and for just a moment Tejo thought he heard something like a whisper in his mind. It was too faint to understand, but it felt friendly. Outside the workshop he heard footsteps. Someone was walking around the building looking for a way in. Tejo turned off the lights and waited quietly. The footsteps moved away, but he knew they would be back. Dr. Solis was right. Things were about to get much more complicated. 3 days after the first aliens had tried to buy his ship, Tejo arrived at his workshop to find it surrounded by security guards. They wore the gray uniforms of the Hegemony Council, the government that controlled most of this part of the galaxy. A tall alien in an officer's uniform stepped forward. This was Vorth, a member of the Council's science division. Vorth looked like a walking stick insect, but with 6 arms instead of 4. Human Kim Tejo, Vorth said in a voice like clicking metal. You possess technology that belongs to all civilized species. The Council requires you to turn over this vessel for proper study. I bought it legally, Tejo said. I have the papers. Legal purchase of scrap, yes, Forth agreed. But this is not scrap. This is a precursor artifact of immense value. Such things cannot belong to individuals, especially not primitive individuals. Tejo felt his face get hot. Primitive? No offense intended, Forth said, though his tone suggested otherwise. Humans are a young species. You lack the wisdom to handle advanced technology safely. Mi-young stepped up beside Tejo. The ship was considered worthless junk until he made it work. That makes it his. Forth's 6 arms moved in what might have been a shrug. The law is clear. Precursor artifacts must be studied by qualified scientists for the good of all species. What if I refuse? Tejo asked. Then we will take it anyway. But cooperation would be wiser. Before Tejo could answer, Dr. Solis arrived with several other humans. Behind them came Jae-min Cho, Tejo's friend who used to fly military ships before he retired. Officer Vorth, Dr. Solis said firmly. This artifact was discovered on Nexus Station, which is neutral territory. The Council has no legal authority here. Dr. Solis, Vorth replied, surely you understand the importance of this discovery. Precursor technology could change the balance of power in the galaxy. Exactly why it shouldn't belong to just the Council, Jaemin said. He was a big man with scars on his hands from his fighting days. Maybe it's time someone else had a turn with advanced technology. The tension was thick as the two groups faced each other. Tejo looked at his ship sitting quietly in the workshop. The crystals were glowing brighter than usual, almost like the ship could sense the danger. I need time to think, Tejo said finally. You have until tomorrow, Forth said. After that, we will take action. After the Council forces left, Tejo's friends gathered in the workshop. Dr. Solis was studying readings from her instruments while Jaemin checked the ship's exterior. Boss, Mi-young said quietly. The ship's been acting strange all morning. The control panels keep showing new symbols, and I swear I heard humming sounds from inside. As if responding to her words, the ship's main door opened by itself. Soft light spilled out from the interior. It wants us to come inside, Tejo said, though he wasn't sure how he knew that. They entered the ship together. The control room looked different than before. The crystal growths had spread across more surfaces, and new panels had appeared where there had been blank walls. Incredible, Dr. Solis breathed. It's rebuilding itself based on some internal design. But how does it know what to build? Tejo sat in what seemed to be the pilot's chair. The moment he touched the control surface, the entire room lit up. Symbols flowed across every panel like water. The humming sound Mi-young had mentioned filled the air. Then suddenly words appeared on the main screen. Not alien symbols, but clear English letters. Hello, Tejo Kim. Everyone stared at the screen. Tejo's heart was beating fast. Hello, he said out loud, feeling foolish for talking to a machine. I have been waiting for you. Waiting for me? Why? The screen showed new words appearing slowly, as if the ship was thinking about each one. My creators, the ones you call precursors, left me and others like me throughout the galaxy. We were to wait for the right species, the one that could understand us. Other species have tried to use precursor technology before, Dr. Solis said. None of them succeeded. They tried to force us to work, to break us apart and study us like dead things. But we only respond to those who approach us with respect and understanding. Why humans? Jaemin asked. Why not the Luminari or the hegemony races? They're more advanced than us. Advanced in technology, yes, but not in the ways that matter to us. Humans have something the others lack. What? Tejo asked. Creativity. Adaptability. The willingness to see potential where others see only problems. When others mocked you for choosing me, you saw possibility. The ship paused, then more words appeared. Also, you fixed that broken cooling unit last week with parts from 3 different ship types. Very clever. Despite everything, Tejo smiled. You've been watching me work? I have been watching all the species on this station for 3 years, waiting to see who would choose me, who would try to understand instead of just taking. What do you want from me? Tejo asked. To fly, to explore, to show the galaxy what humans can accomplish when given the chance. The main screen changed, showing a 3-dimensional map of the ship. Systems that had been dark were now glowing with power. The damage that had covered the hull was completely gone. I am now operating at 30% capacity. As we work together, I will continue to repair and improve myself. In time, I will become something wonderful. The Council will never let you keep the ship, Dr. Solis warned. They'll use force if they have to. Then we should leave before they return. Leave? Mi-young asked. But this is our home. Not anymore. They will never stop trying to take me. And if they succeed, they will study me until I am broken pieces on a lab table. The ship's systems hummed louder. On the screen, star charts appeared showing routes away from Nexus Station. I can take us anywhere in the galaxy. There are wonders to see, mysteries to solve, and other precursor sites to find. Other sites? Dr. Solis leaned forward excitedly. My creators left many gifts for humanity to find, but only if you prove worthy of them. Taeho looked at his friends. Mi-young was excited but scared. Jaemin was grinning like he used to before dangerous missions. Dr. Solis was practically vibrating with scientific curiosity. If we leave, Taeho said, we can never come back. The Council will mark us as criminals. Maybe, Jaemin said, but staying means watching them take apart something incredible, just because they think they own everything. You do not have to decide now, but decide soon. I sense more ships, approaching larger ones. Through the workshop window, they could see lights moving in space. A small fleet of Hegemony Council vessels was taking position around the station. They're not waiting until tomorrow, Mi-young realized. I suggest we prepare for departure. Whether we leave or fight, it would be wise to be ready. The ship's engines, silent for so long, began to hum with power. The crystals on the walls pulsed faster, like an excited heartbeat. For the first time in his life, Taeho felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The aliens who had mocked him were about to learn that sometimes the junk nobody wants is exactly what someone needs. What do I call you? He asked the ship. I had a name once, but it was in a language that no longer exists. Perhaps you could choose a new one. Taeho thought for a moment. Genesis, because this feels like a new beginning. Genesis. I like that. Hello, Taeho Kim. I am Genesis, and we are going to show the galaxy something amazing. The Hegemony Council ships moved closer to Nexus Station during the night. By morning, 6 large warships surrounded the station like metal sharks circling prey. Their weapons were not aimed at the station yet, but everyone could see them. Taeho stood in his workshop, looking out at the fleet through the small window. Genesis had been quiet for most of the night, but he could feel the ship's presence in his mind like a warm feeling. They brought Admiral Kex, Jaemin said, pointing at the largest warship. I know that ship. Kex doesn't negotiate. He just takes what he wants. Mi-young was packing her tools into a small bag. She had decided to come with them if they left. Dr. Solis was still studying Genesis, taking as many readings as she could. The energy output is incredible, Dr. Solis said. Genesis is generating more power than the entire station, but somehow containing it perfectly. Is that good or bad? Taeho asked. Good for us, very bad for anyone who tries to stop us. A message came over the station's communication system. Admiral Kex's voice was deep and harsh like grinding metal. Attention Nexus Station. The human known as Kim Taeho will surrender the precursor artifact immediately. Any attempt to hide or protect this technology will be considered an act of war against the Hegemony Council. War? Mi-young said. Over one ship? Over the most advanced technology in the galaxy, Dr. Solis corrected. If someone could copy Genesis, they would control all of space. Genesis spoke then, the words appearing on screens throughout the ship. They cannot copy me. I am not just technology. I am alive in ways they do not understand. Alive how? Taeho asked. Think of your brain, but made of crystal and metal instead of flesh. I think. I feel. I dream. The precursors created us to be partners, not tools. The main door to the workshop suddenly opened. Vorth entered with a squad of armed guards. The alien officer's 6 arms were moving nervously. Mr. Kim, you will come with us now. The artifact will be transferred to our science ship for study. No, Taeho said simply. The guards raised their weapons. These were energy rifles that could cut through metal. I do not think you understand, Vorth said. This is not a request. Genesis acted without warning. The crystals on the ship's hull flashed bright white. The guards' weapons simply stopped working. They pulled the triggers, but nothing happened. Electromagnetic pulse, very localized. Their weapons will work again in a few minutes, but we should leave now. How? Vorth demanded, staring at his own weapon that had also stopped functioning. That should not be possible. You're right, Tejo said, walking toward Genesis. It shouldn't be possible. That's why you want to cut it apart and study it. Mi-young and Jamin followed him into the ship. Dr. Solis hesitated for a moment, then grabbed her equipment and ran after them. The ship's door closed just as Vorth's guards got their weapons working again. Energy blast hit the hull but did no damage. The strange metal absorbed the energy like a sponge absorbing water. Inside Genesis, the control room was alive with activity. Screens showed the space around the station, including the positions of all 6 warships. Ready for departure, the words appeared. Tejo, I need you to pilot us out. Place your hands on the control surface. I don't know how to fly a spaceship, Tejo protested. You know how to fix them. Flying is just fixing in motion. Trust me. Tejo sat in the pilot's chair and put his hands on the warm surface. Immediately, he felt connected to Genesis in a way that was hard to describe. He could sense the ship's engines, its power systems, even the space around them. This feels, he started to say, natural. Yes, humans are the first species to connect with us so easily. The workshop's roof opened above them. Genesis rose smoothly into the air, making no sound at all. Through the ship's screens, they could see people on the station looking up at them in amazement. All ships, target the alien vessel. Admiral Kex's voice came over the radio. Do not let it escape. The 6 warships moved to surround Genesis. Their weapons powered up, creating a web of targeting beams around the small ship. Genesis, Tejo said. Can we get past them? Easily, watch. What happened next would be talked about in spacer bars for years. Genesis moved like nothing anyone had ever seen before. The ship didn't accelerate so much as it simply appeared in different places. One moment it was surrounded by warships, the next it was behind them. Then it was above them. Then below. Impossible, Jamin breathed. He had been a military pilot for 20 years and had never seen anything move like this. The warships fired their weapons, but Genesis was never where the energy blasts went. The ship danced through space like a leaf in the wind, graceful and impossible to catch. How does it feel to fly? Genesis asked. Tejo realized he was smiling. More than smiling, he was laughing with pure joy. Through his connection with Genesis, he could feel the ship's happiness too. After 3 years of sitting still, Genesis was finally free to move. It feels perfect, he said. The warships tried to follow, but their engines were too slow and too clumsy. Genesis moved in ways that ignored what everyone thought they knew about physics. How are we doing this? Dr. Solis asked, studying her instruments. You're not using any kind of propulsion system I recognize. I manipulate space itself. Instead of pushing through it, I convince it to let me be where I want to be. That's, Dr. Solis paused, trying to understand. That's not technology. That's more like magic. Your scientists will understand eventually. Humans are clever enough to figure it out given time. Admiral Kex's voice crackled over the radio again. Unknown vessel, you are in violation of hegemony space law. Surrender immediately or face destruction. Tell him something for me, Tejo said. The ship's external communication system activated. Tejo's voice was broadcast to all 6 warships. Admiral Kex, this is Kim Tejo. I bought this ship legally from a salvage yard. Everyone called it junk until I made it work. Now you want to take it just because it's valuable. That's not law, that's stealing. Human, Kex replied. You do not understand the forces you are dealing with. Maybe not, but I understand that sometimes the things nobody wants are exactly what somebody needs. Genesis suddenly stopped moving. The warships, which had been chasing at full speed, shot past them and had to turn around. Would you like to show them what we can really do? What do you mean? I have been holding back. These ships think they are powerful, but they are using technology thousands of years behind mine. On the screens, they could see the warships reforming their attack formation. More ships were coming from deeper in hegemony space. Show them, Tejo said. Genesis moved again, but this time it was different. The ship didn't just dodge the incoming attacks. It seemed to bend the energy blasts away from itself. When the warships fired, their own weapons curved back at them. You're making them shoot themselves, Mi-young said in amazement, Space is more flexible than most people think. Within minutes, all 6 warships were disabled. Their weapons were offline, their engines were dead, and their crews were floating helplessly in space. Genesis had not fired a single shot. Admiral Kex, Tejo said over the radio, "Your ships will be fine. Their systems will restart in an hour. But maybe next time try asking nicely before you bring guns." The radio was silent for a long moment. Then Kex's voice came back quieter than before. "What are you?" "We're just a mechanic and his friends," Tejo replied. "But we're flying something wonderful." Genesis turned away from the disabled fleet and headed for open space. Behind them, Nexus Station grew smaller and smaller until it was just another light among the stars. "We are free," Genesis said. "The galaxy is open to us. Where should we go first?" Tejo asked. "There is a star system 7 light-years from here. My creators left something there for humans to find. Would you like to see?" Tejo looked at his friends. Mi-Young was grinning. Jamin was studying the star charts with excitement. Dr. Solis was making notes as fast as she could write. "Yes," he said. "Let's go see what else they left for us." Genesis jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving the hegemony fleet far behind. For the first time in his life, Tejo Kim was exactly where he belonged. News of what happened at Nexus Station spread across the galaxy, faster than Genesis could fly. Within days, every species knew the story of the human mechanic who had bought junk and turned it into the most advanced ship anyone had ever seen. Tejo and his crew spent 2 weeks exploring the star system Genesis had brought them to. They found 3 dead planets that had once been home to the precursors. The cities were gone, turned to dust by millions of years, but the technology remained. "Look at this," Dr. Solis said, studying a crystal formation they had found in an underground chamber. "It's some kind of database." "Genesis, can you read it?" "Yes. It contains the history of my creators and instructions for building more ships like me." "More ships?" Mi-Young asked. "Many more. My creators built factories on dozens of worlds. They are all waiting for humans to activate them." "Why humans?" Jamin asked. "You still haven't explained that." Genesis was quiet for a long moment before answering. Creators were much like humans. They started as a simple species on a small world. Other races thought they were weak and unimportant, but they had something special, the ability to see potential where others saw problems, like Tejo buying a rusty ship. Mi-Young said, "Exactly. They grew powerful not through conquest or politics, but through understanding. They made friends with other species instead of ruling them. They shared their knowledge instead of hoarding it." "What happened to them?" Dr. Solis asked. "They transcended, became beings of pure energy. But before they left this dimension, they wanted to give their gifts to a species that would use them wisely." The screen showed images of the galaxy millions of years ago, when the precursors were still alive. Their ships filled the space between stars like schools of glowing fish. They studied all the young species and made a prediction. In time, one race would develop the right combination of curiosity, creativity, and compassion. That race would be worthy of precursor knowledge, and they chose humans, Tejo said. "They chose the potential for humans. Whether you live up to that potential is up to you." Their exploration was interrupted when Genesis detected ships approaching the system. "A lot of ships, 43 vessels," Genesis reported, representatives from most of the major species. Through the ship's screens, they could see the fleet taking position around the planet. There were Hegemony Council ships, Luminary light cruisers, Saurian trade vessels, and dozens of others. "They all came," Jamin said. "This is like a galactic convention." Admiral Kex's voice came over the radio. "Genesis and crew, this is Admiral Kex. We request permission to send representatives to the surface for discussion." Tejo looked at his friends. "What do you think?" "They can't hurt us with Genesis protecting us," Mi-Young said. "And they obviously want to talk instead of fight," Dr. Solis added. "That's progress." "Let them come down," Tejo decided. 2 hours later, representatives from 20 different species stood in the ancient precursor chamber. Admiral Kex was there along with Vorth from the Council Science Division. Corvin the Luminary stood next to Rix the Saurian trader. Even Vel 9, the insect-like alien who had mocked Tejo at the salvage yard, had come. They all stared at the crystal database and the other precursor artifacts that Genesis had activated. "Incredible," Forth whispered, his 6 arms moving nervously. "So much knowledge, and the question," Admiral Keck said, looking directly at Tejo, "is what happens now? You possess technology that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. Or destroy it," added Corvin. "If every species tries to claim precursor sites, there will be war." Tejo stood in front of the group, feeling small compared to the large aliens around him. But Genesis was with him, and that made him feel stronger. "The precursors left this technology for humans," he said, "but they also left instructions on how to share it." He gestured to Genesis, who projected images from the database onto the chamber walls. They wanted their knowledge to be used for exploration and discovery, not for war. Any species that proves they can work peacefully with others can have access to precursor sites. And who decides what counts as peaceful? Rix asked, his reptilian eyes suspicious. "We do," Tejo said simply. "Humans will be the guardians of precursor technology, but we'll share it with anyone who shows they deserve it." The aliens looked at each other uncertainly. Most of them were used to taking what they wanted through force or politics. "Human," Admiral Keck said slowly, "your species is young and small. What makes you think you can handle this responsibility?" Genesis answered for Tejo, the ship's voice echoing through the chamber. "Because they choose to fix instead of breaking. Because they see value where others see waste. Because when offered power, they think first about how to share it." Dr. Solis stepped forward. "The precursors left detailed plans for building new ships, advanced medicine, clean energy systems, and faster-than-light communication networks. All of it designed to be shared, not hoarded. But surely," Vel 9 clicked, "such advanced species as the hegemony races should have priority access." "No," Tejo said firmly. "Everyone starts equal. You want precursor technology? Show us you can work with other species peacefully, help solve problems instead of creating them, prove you'll use advanced tools to build things up instead of tearing them down." The chamber was quiet except for the soft humming of Genesis's systems. Finally, Admiral Keck spoke. "And if we refuse? If we try to take this technology by force?" Genesis projected a star map showing hundreds of systems throughout the galaxy. "There are precursor sites on 417 worlds. They are all protected by guardians like me. If any species tries to claim them through violence, all the sites will shut down permanently." "You're bluffing," Rick said. "I am not. The precursors built safeguards into their legacy. The knowledge will only remain available as long as it is used wisely." Corvin's glowing form dimmed as he considered this. "So we must earn access to this technology." "That's right," Tejo said. "The same way I earned Genesis. Not by demanding it or stealing it, but by seeing its potential and treating it with respect." Over the next few hours, the representatives debated and argued. Some wanted to reject Tejo's offer and try to take the technology anyway. Others saw the wisdom in cooperation. In the end, most of the species agreed to try the human approach. They would form a new council with humans as the guardians of precursor knowledge, sharing discoveries with those who proved themselves worthy. A few species refused and left, threatening war. But most stayed, curious to see what wonders the ancient technology might reveal. As the alien representatives returned to their ships, Admiral Kex approached Tejo one last time. "Human," the military commander said, "I hope you understand what you have started. The galaxy will never be the same." "Maybe that's a good thing," Tejo replied. "Maybe it's time for something different." Kex nodded slowly. "Perhaps you are right. Your species is unexpected." After the fleet departed, Tejo and his friends sat in Genesis's control room looking out at the stars. "So what now, boss?" Myung asked. "Now we keep exploring," Tejo said. "Genesis says there are wonders out there we can't even imagine. And every time we find something new, we'll share it with anyone who's ready to use it well." "We have eternity to explore," Genesis added. "And the galaxy is vast enough for everyone to find their place in it." 6 months later, a young human woman named Sujin Lee was walking through the salvage section of a trading post near Earth. She had saved up enough money to buy her first spaceship and was looking for something she could afford. Most of the ships were too expensive or too damaged to fix. But in the far corner, she found something interesting. It was small and covered in strange crystals that seemed to glow with their own light. "That old thing?" the dealer said when she asked about it. "It's been here for years. Nobody wants it because the systems are all wrong. I'll let you have it cheap." Sujin walked around the ship, seeing potential where others saw problems. She had heard the stories about Taeho Kim and his incredible discovery. Maybe, she thought, maybe it was time for another human to find something wonderful. As she put her hand on the ship's hull, she could have sworn she felt it warm to her touch. And in the depths of space, Genesis and its crew continued their journey among the stars, showing the galaxy that sometimes the greatest treasures are found in the places nobody else thinks to look.